Remember the height of the pandemic, when everything felt so uncertain? Well, right in the middle of all that chaos, one man just bursts onto social media. He offered exactly what people were desperate for: a little bit of hope and a whole lot of cash. He called himself Francis Leo Marcos, a supposed philanthropist with pockets so deep they seemed endless. But behind all those viral videos and big promises was a story, well, it was a lot more twisted and deceptive than anyone could have imagined.
And this was the story he was selling. Think about that for a second. He wasn't claiming to be a millionaire or even a billionaire. No, he went straight for trillionaire, the custodian of some massive untold fortune. For a country desperate for a hero, he basically stepped up and declared himself its financial savior. This wild claim was the entire foundation for everything that came next. And you know what? For a while there, millions of people totally bought it. To his followers, he was like a Robin Hood for the TikTok generation, a hero for the everyday person. But for a lot of others, the whole story just seemed a little too good to be true. And that really is the heart of it all, isn't it? Was this guy for real, or was his entire identity just one massive, elaborate lie?
Okay, so let's rewind back to 2020. The world is grinding to a halt, and this guy finds his perfect moment. This is how a total nobody became a household name, by starting a viral trend he called the Maya Mon Challenge.
The idea was actually pretty clever. He'd film himself handing out sacks of rice and cash, and then he'd get online and publicly dare other rich people to match him. He was basically shaming the wealthy into helping out. It was a brilliant populist move. At a time when so many people were struggling, his message hit home, hard. He became an instant folk hero overnight.
But here's the thing about fame. It brings a ton of scrutiny, and almost as fast as he popped up, the whole carefully built image started to get some serious cracks. And the very first lie, the biggest one, was his name. That and his made-up connection to the most powerful political family in the Philippines. So on one hand, you have the character he's playing, Francis Leo Marcos, some long-lost son of the famous Marcos clan. And on the other hand, you have the cold hard fact, straight from the National Bureau of Investigation. His real name is Norman Mangusin. His core identity wasn't just a little white lie. It was completely stolen. And this wasn't just a rumor. The denial came straight from the top, from the family matriarch herself. In a formal letter to the NBI, former First Lady Imelda Marcos flat out said he had zero connection to them and even asked for an investigation into his fraudulent use of their name. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that. But the name, oh, that was just the tip of the iceberg. The whole Francis Leo Marcos persona was this massive, carefully constructed lie, an entire architecture of deception built piece by piece. Just look at this chart. It really lays out the scale of the lies. Claimed to be a Marcos heir? Nope. Claimed to be an MIT graduate? The university has absolutely no record of him. Claimed to own these huge mansions in a fancy subdivision. Turns out, he was just a renter. And his job? Not some big-shot international businessman, but a guy with a long and frankly disturbing criminal history involving fraud and human trafficking. And it just kept getting deeper. He lied about being the chairman of a political party, a claim the real chairman had to publicly shut down. Investigators found a whole collection of fake documents, passports, birth certificates, driver's licenses, all to prop up this fictional character. There were even allegations that his whole do-gooder act was just a front to harass a homeowners association on behalf of a business partner. And this is where the story shifts from just, telling tall tales online to something way, way darker. Because underneath the Francis Leo Marcos mask was Norman Mangusin, a man with a very serious and very long criminal record that goes back almost 20 years before he ever became famous. I mean, just look at this pattern. The charges go all the way back to 2006 with these horrifying accusations of child trafficking. Then, right at the peak of his fame in 2020, he gets arrested for illegally handing out eyeglasses. But what's way more serious are the new complaints from that same year alleging he sent women overseas for so-called jobs that were actually prostitution. And let's be crystal clear about what we're talking about here. Qualified human trafficking is one of the most severe, non-bailable offenses you can be charged with in the Philippines. The fact that the Court of Appeals themselves denied his request for bail in 2022, that tells you just how strong the evidence against him really is. You'd think with a criminal history like that, he'd maybe try to lay low for a bit, right? Nope, not this guy. His audacity only grew.
He actually tried to turn his online fame into real political power by running for senator, a move that led to this unbelievable showdown with the highest court in the country. So when the Election Commission called his Senate bid a nuisance and threw it out, he didn't just accept it. In an act of pure nerve, he challenged them and took his case all the way up to the Supreme Court. And here's the crazy part. He actually won a temporary restraining order at first. But then, just 2 days after that big win from the Supreme Court, he just dropped out of the race. The court was not happy. They found him guilty of indirect contempt, stating that he had made a mockery of judicial processes. It was a massive slap on the wrist from the highest legal authority in the nation. So, the final act of this whole bizarre saga starts to unfold in early 2026. And it all kicked off with, you guessed it, another brazen act of impersonation that put him squarely in the sights of law enforcement. A picture started making the rounds online, showing Mangusin wearing a ceremonial blue police uniform. He tried to claim it was photoshopped, but the National Police Commission wasn't buying it. They called it a mockery and launched a full-blown criminal investigation into him illegally using police insignia. And it wasn't just about the uniform. At the exact same time, a warrant was put out for his arrest on 12, not 1, but 12, counts of unjust vexation under the Cybercrime Prevention Act. All of it reportedly because he was harassing people online. The end came pretty quickly after that. On February 24th, agents from the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group tracked Norman Mangusin down to a hotel in Pasay and arrested him. The viral philanthropist, the fake Marcos, was finally in cuffs. So after building an entire life on lies, after using a global pandemic to get famous, and after facing this horrifying list of charges that range from fraud all the way to human trafficking, you have to wonder, has the law finally, truly caught up to Norman Mangusin, or is this just another chapter in one of the most unbelievable con stories of our time?